New York Senate passes bill allowing the government to detain contagious people. Now, I read this headline as I was doing show prep today, and I thought to myself, that's got to be clickbait. I thought to myself, that's got to be a headline that was just specifically designed to get people to click on the article, and then I figured once I started reading the article, it really wouldn't be anything like that. But it is. Daniel Horowitz himself tweeted about it earlier this afternoon. So obviously it's gaining some traction among the conservative ranks. And for good reason. I mean, this needs to be brought to people's attention. Let me read here again from NLQreport.com. The New York Senate just passed a bill that will allow government officials to apprehend and indefinitely detain people who are considered a threat to the public based on their health status. Boy, what could go wrong with that, huh? Is there room for abuse there? Is it a slippery slope? Democrats will say, no, it's not. Government never abuses its power. And it's not just sick people either, the article goes on. If the bill becomes law, they will be able to detain contacts of those who have been infected. So not just people who are sick, but people who have been in contact with those who are sick. And the government will be making this decision. These people will be detained. 1984. That's what we're living in. We're living in 1984. George Orwell got it right. I mean, it was a pretty accurate prediction, right? It's called Assembly Bill A416. Relates to the removal of cases, contacts, and carriers of communicable diseases who are potentially dangerous to the public health. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if I have a cold, right, and I'm sneezing, have a little cough, and I go out to the grocery store, am I a danger? Maybe if there's a person that I happen to cross paths with who is maybe has some kind of pre-existing condition, who is, maybe has a compromised immune system or what have you. That could happen, right? But just because that could happen, should I be detained and prevented from going out? Should the people I've been in contact with be detained and prevented from going out? I mean, where does it end? It's just, the premise is so absurd. It is absolutely tyrannical. Listen, an act to amend the public health law. Now I'm reading from the opening of the bill. An act to amend the public health law in relation to the removal of cases, contacts, and carriers of communicable diseases who are potentially dangerous to the public health. Again, it's going to be the government of New York making that decision, making that judgment call. If you're dangerous to the public health. I mean, folks, where does this end? Dangerous to the public health? What the hell does that mean? What does that mean? The people of the state of New York, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, the public health law is amended by adding a new section 2120-A to read as follows. Removal and detention of cases, contacts, and carriers who are or may be a danger to public health. Other orders. 1. The provisions of the section shall be utilized in the event that the governor declares a state of health emergency due to an epidemic or any communicable disease. Upon determining by clear and convincing evidence that the health of others is or may be endangered by a case, contact, or carrier, or suspected case, contact, or carrier. So even if you're suspected of being a contact, a carrier, or a case, even if it's not proven, the governor and the state government can detain you. Let me read a little bit more here. Where was I? Let me just read that, because it's a long sentence, and it wouldn't make sense if I just jumped right in the middle of it now. So, upon determining by clear and convincing evidence that the health of others is or may be endangered by a case, contact, or carrier, or suspected case, contact, or carrier of a contagious disease that, in the opinion of the governor, after consultation with the commissioner, may pose an imminent and significant threat to the public health, resulting in severe morbidity or high mortality, the governor or his or her delegee, including but not limited to the commissioner or the heads of local health departments, may order the removal and or detention of such a person or of a group of such persons by issuing a single order identifying such persons either by name or by a reasonably specific description of the individuals or group being detained. Such person or group of persons shall be detained in a medical facility or other appropriate facility or premises designated by the governor or his or her delegee and complying with subdivision 5 of this section. There you go. So it not only applies to individuals, it also applies to groups. Meaning, let's say someone who's sick goes into a bar, and the government of New York decides that everyone in the bar now is at risk. They can detain, if this bill passes, they can detain everyone in that bar. It's like a damn concentration camp, folks. Unbelievable. This is really happening. This is really happening in the United States of America. You know, I've said before that this country is becoming increasingly unrecognizable. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about, folks. I mean, 5 years ago, would you ever think that this sort of thing could happen in the United States? And yet here it is. Here it is. That's why I never buy that argument. Well, it can never happen in the United States. The second someone says that to me, I'm immediately skeptical. We hear that all the time with, the gun control debate, for example. When I say we have the right to bear arms to prevent against a tyrannical government, then they say, well, that'll never happen in America. Oh, really? I never thought we'd have a state government passing a law or proposing a law that says they can detain anyone they deem to be a public health risk or a contact of a public health risk. But here we are. We're at that point. The liberals are getting more and more radical, ladies and gentlemen. The liberals are getting more and more radical. 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a liberal Democrat who would be willing to propose legislation like this. I really believe that they are getting more and more brave, more and more power-hungry, more and more radical. As the years go by, they're moving further and further to the left. And they say that it's us conservatives that are moving more and more to the right. That's not true. Us conservatives are the ones that are grounded. We're grounded in the Constitution, the idea of freedom, and small government. They're the ones growing further and further to the left.